Okay, so here's one of the recipes that I use the canned beans with, and this time it's going to be the black beans that I'm going to use. I call it taco soup, and basically I had some leftover ground beef from a meal that I made yesterday, and I'm going to add the taco seasonings to it, and then I'm going to, you know, make a soup with it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I've got right here, and it's not measured, it's just whatever I have left over, but since it's a soup, this is more than enough meat, and it'll make a good sized batch. Okay, and then I have some dried garlic that I'll use with it, and some onions. I have some Slap Your Mama Hot, which is a Cajun seasoning. Very good stuff, really like it. But you can use cayenne pepper if you don't have any Slap Your Mama Hot. Some crushed red peppers, cumin, salt, rice, black beans, and this is some leftover beef broth from another meal also. So I will end up adding additional beef broth because obviously that's not going to be enough to make the soup. And when I do the taco seasonings, you can add the cornstarch in. It's just a thickener, because you know when you make the what do you call it, the taco seasonings, then it's usually thicker. I'm going to do it anyway because I kind of like that thickness, and then when you add it to the soup, it gives it a little bit more thickness, I guess is how you could put it. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I've got my pot here that I'm going to make the soup in. I'm going to make the taco seasoning in this pot because I want to keep all those nice flavors. So first thing, going to put in the leftover ground beef. And when you use beans, it's a great way to stretch a pound of ground beef. Okay, then I'll go ahead and I'll add the onions in there. I had a little bit over a pound of ground beef, and I took that pound of ground beef and I used part of it, like I said, for yesterday's dinner, in which we had homemade cheeseburger macaroni, which is like one of the guys' favorite. So, but since I just make a big pot of macaroni, I only use about a half a pound of the ground beef and spread it around. Gives them more than enough beef. And then we just did a bunch of homegrown green beans on the side for our veggies, and that's a perfect meal. Okay, so I added the garlic in there. The garlic was what I call partially dehydrated. It was dried but not well enough to store for a long time because the humidity, we had some humidity roll in, so I didn't finish it. So I've been using it in my meals every day, and it looked like a lot of garlic, but really it wasn't. Because, like I said, with the soup, you know, it's going to need a little extra anyway. Okay, I'm going to mix together all the rest of the taco seasonings now, which is going to go ahead and do a teaspoon of cornstarch, roughly a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of some Slap Your Mama. I'm going to use about a half a teaspoon. You could do a quarter or a half, your choice. It depends on how much you like cumin, of the cumin. So I'm going to use about a half because it's a big pot of soup. And I almost forgot we need some oregano in there. So we can do, since it's going to be a good sized pot of soup, we could do almost a teaspoon of oregano. And if I was making tacos, that would be my seasonings. So I never did quite get the fascination of people going and buying taco seasoning packs when it takes so little to make it at home. So we're just going to stir that up. Okay. And ground beef is starting to heat up here. One of the things I forgot to mention is at the once I get all the other ingredients that I showed you in there, then I'm going to add in some frozen vegetables, okay? And it's your choice. If you have fresh vegetables, then just do the fresh, but just mixed vegetables. I do like the, you know, the corn, the peas, the carrots, that works great, or the one with the green beans. Anything like that works great, okay? And you don't have to add it. I just do it because, again, one, it's better for you with all the vegetables in there, and two, it's a lot more filling. So again, that soup's going to go a lot further. But the main emphasis here is going to be, we're going to have those black beans that are going to be really filling, and they're good and tasty too. Okay, we're just sauteing those onions right now. And you can put a lot more onions in. I had a handful of like some of the smaller ones that I plucked from the garden. So I decided to use those, and they're very, very strong onions this year. Oh my gosh, they are potent onions. So those will work good, and I think they're pretty well sauteed. And if you didn't have any oil or anything, because with the ground beef it still had a little bit of fat in it. It wasn't actually ground beef, it was ground sirloin, I think, or chuck, I don't know. But it didn't have a whole lot of fat in it to start with. So you could add a little bit of oil in there, and I do have some of this that's really nice. It's chili and garlic olive oil, so I think I'll put just a drop in there because that'll be some good flavoring. Add a little bit of kick to it. I don't put too much in because it is pretty spicy. Oh yeah, that really livened up the smell. So now I'm going to add in those seasonings. Kind of coat that ground beef. There we go. Oh, if you had smell-o-vision, I think you'd like this. Okay, now that I've got the seasonings added in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the not the ground beef, the beef stock. Oh yeah. There we go. Nice. Smells wonderful. Now, of course, at this point you can add bouillon, or you can add more beef stock, whichever you prefer. But I like nice big pots, so I usually, once I get everything added in, I make I add a lot of beef broth to it, or I just, if I only have a little bit of beef broth, I'll make the difference up with some water and just add some seasonings that, kind of lend to the beef taste, like Worcestershire sauce or something like that. Okay, so we have this nice big jar of beans, and we probably will not throw them all in because it is a quart jar. If you remember off of my last video, I did pint jars. This is one from 2012 or 2013. I had it written on the jar. So it's the last one from this time. So let me get a spoon and we'll put these in. There we go. Oh, they're nice and tender. And what I don't use, yes, tonight I might add them all in. But what I don't use tonight will be used in a meal tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, but later on in this week. So never fear, it will be another fast meal. Okay, and shortly after I turned off the camera, I decided to go ahead and add the entire quart, because if we have leftover soup, that's not a problem. I can stick some in the fridge for later on or over the weekend, because you know how it is when you're running around on the weekends, you always need something quick. So we could do that. Now I'm going to add in about a cup a cup to a cup and a half of rice. So there's 1 cup, and you can see there's definitely not enough liquid in there, right? Because when that rice poofs up, it's going to suck up that liquid in there. So we'll put, I think I'll do about another 1/4 cup of rice. Like I said, it's great. And you can use brown rice in this too, which if I'm not making a fast food meal, I would use brown rice. Or, like I've done in one of my other videos, if I want to use brown rice, but I don't have the time, then I'll use some that I made and dehydrated for instant brown rice. Okay, after I put in the rice, I added the veggies and the additional water, and I just tasted that broth, and it actually tastes pretty good. It's very spicy, so it depends on how, you know, spicy you want it. You might want to cut back on the spices a little bit. It's just however you like your tacos is how this is going to kind of taste. Okay, so now I'm going to let it get up to a boil, and then I'm going to turn it down to between about medium, and it'll take about 15-20 minutes tops, and we'll have food, and I don't have to watch it. So the majority of those ingredients were already done. The beef was left over. You just can't get any faster than that. So taking your leftovers and turning them into another meal is really easy, and especially if you have beans on hand. Beans and any type of meat, you can pretty much figure out a meal to make with it. Right now the whole house smells like tacos. Okay, so it's up to a boil. I'm going to turn it down and just let it simmer, and it'll be ready in about 15-20 minutes. And there's the finished version of it. It's nice and thick, almost stew-like, which is good. Be nice and filling. Put that in a bowl, shred some cheese on it, eat it with some tortilla chips or biscuits, whatever you like, and bam, it's done. That's it.